Hi, so after having a big mess on my desk for a while, I finally finished this journal page. And not only did I want to share with you the journal page, which this is the finished page, this is the front side. And actually the front sides are just slightly different on these two. This one's mine. You can see this leaf here on the front. These are leaves that I made a few years ago, and I will leave you the link below so that you can see how I made these. And with that, I give a big shout out to my homegirl Sybil, because of that video, that's how we met. So I actually have like just this handful left out of all those leaves. I think I made like 300 and something. So here's the journal page that I made. And you can see Snoopy and Woodstock right there. So I'm going to also show you how I made this tree. And I used the Tim Holtz tree branch, and then also a embossing folder, but then I do some other things to this to kind of give it a more realistic look, and then I'm also going to show you how to make these tiny little leaves. So if you stay tuned, I will show you both of those things. And I love the fall projects. On the back of this one I did some, this is for her journaling area, I did some, these were those powdered colors. I think they're Ken Oliver or something. And I ended up using them once and then selling them. But they do make nice backgrounds. So this was a really fun page. I love the peanuts and I love fall and the colors, just the beautiful colors. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned if you want to see how to make the trees. So in making the tree, I'm going to start with a file folder. I want something a little bit of thickness because it is going to end up going through an embossing folder. And then I've got a myriad of sprays here, different browns. You know, this green and this purple will end up being a little bit brown. And then some lighter colors to kind of lighten it up if it gets too dark, because we want this part of the bark to be a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to do some testing on here to see how dark these spray, because we really want this not to be too dark. I'm also going to use this because this is, it looks like it's yellow, but it's really not. It's more of a brown or a light. So I'm just going to do some testing. I'm going to spray a lot so that I can make several trees over time. I can keep the excess and make several trees. So that's actually a good base. And then some of these sprayers probably might be a little bit, oh, that's actually great. Okay, so this is a Lindy's Starburst, and it's copper brown, so that's a really good bark color. So we're just going to try some different sprays here. Here's some lighter, because we don't want it to get too dark. I'm going to add some, this is a Starburst in South Shore Sand, so that will actually be a great color. I'm really hoping that this spray ink will sort of saturate in. Okay, so this is the South Shore Sand. Some of these aren't going to spray. I'm going to dry off that middle part there. So I'm going to paper towel that. Okay, that's actually a great start. Okay, so then I have some of these darker colors, espresso. So I'm going to kind of spray this from far off because we don't want it to be, we don't want too much dark. And this is Perfect Pearls Mist and Cappuccino. And this will give it a little bit of shine, which I will go in and add more shine later because in the fall, I'm doing a fall tree. I don't know, I think the sap runs different times of year, and I think the fall time is one of the sap running times. I have also this green and this purple, so this is sort of it's the moon shadow mists, so they kind of have a darker tone, and I think I'm going to just do some experimenting if I can get it to come out. That one is clogged, so I'm not going to use that one. Let's try this one. Okay. If you get a Lindy stamp gang that are clogged, you should be able to contact them and get some replacement. Oh, that's good. Okay, so this one is a purplish, but the moon shadow mists have a lot of vintage brown undertones to them. And now it's clogged, so I guess that was it. But it was nice while it lasted. So I almost would like to have a little bit more brown in there. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of this sand color. Let me see what that looks like. I don't think that's what I'm looking for, but I'm just gonna add some here. Hopefully I can get quite a few trees out of this. But I think that's going to be a nice base. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and finish that later. So here it is. And I was a little bit worried about it being a little bit too yellow or orange, but actually I'm liking the way that it comes out when it's wet. It's definitely a different color than when it's dry. So now I'm going to cut this and do some die cutting and embossing. So I've got the branch tree die from Sizzix, Tim Holtz Sizzix, and I've got the 2 B plates here, or that's a B and a C. I needed 2 B's. 2 B plates, and I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to try to get at least 2 out of this. So I got my other B plate, and I'm going to face the ink side towards the tree. So it's basically the down side is towards the tree. And I'm going to try to get as many out of this as possible. So, here we go. So we have a nice cut here. And even though it might look very yellow, I can still use maybe some distress ink to darken it up if I need it to be darker. So now I'm going to take this wood grain plate, good wood grain embossing folder, and I'm going to add this wood grain. And you want to kind of pay attention to which side is up and which side is down so that you can decide which way that you want your holes to be. So I'm running it through my embossing folder. 2 B plates. So now you have this wonderfully embossed tree, and I'm going to do a little bit more to it. Okay, so now I've adjusted my camera, and I've got some Distress Ink and Vintage Photo, and I am going to do a little bit to it with the Vintage Photo because I just want to give it a little bit of extra sort of 3D-ness, so dimension. You don't want this to be looking like it has no dimension, so I'm just going to go along the edges of the branches. And I may even want to go with something a little bit darker, so I'm going to try the walnut stain as well. So, and I'm just going to go along the edges with the walnut stain there. Now you can see it. Okay. You can see that it gives it a little bit more depth. Okay. I don't get too crazy with it. And then what I do is I take some markers, and you can pretty much use whatever you have. It doesn't have to be this brand, doesn't have to be big or whatever. And I kind of test over here just so that I can see it against the background how dark that's going to be. Let me see this one. This one might not be dark enough. Actually, that's pretty good. And then what I do is I go into the where it's the embossing is debossed, so it's the lower portions, and I usually will try to go through all the lower portions to darken the bark. Okay, so I just go through and I color in the debossed areas, and then I also will add a few lines to any other areas that sort of seem flat to me. I'll just add some lines. Okay, in different areas that seem sort of flat. And then the last thing that I do is I take glossy accents and I'll put a little bit of this on there in areas, and then when it dries it'll give the illusion of like maybe some areas of sap where the tree might be sticky. And again, it just gives you even a little bit more dimension. I usually put that in the depressed areas here and there, just a little dab here and there. Okay, so there is the tree that will go on my project. I may do a little bit more to it if it needs to be darker, but you can see that that has a lot of dimension, and that's how I use the tree folder. I mean, that's how I make the tree for this journal page. So I'm also going to show you how to make the leaves on the tree. So the leaves, I have these oversprayed pieces from when I was spraying the leaves in the other video, and so I kept all of these because they're manila foul folder, which means they're nice and stiff. And I even have a little piece like this, and even this can be used because my leaf punch is really small, so I can actually go here and punch all through all of these. And what I do is I try to mix the colors so that you get a little bit of everything. You even want some green, like here's some really nice red. So you can see those make some really nice colors. And I also make sure to try and get some green. Okay, so I've got a bunch punched out here already, and I've got some green right here, and this one I really want to try to get as many out of, so that's why I'm punching it from this side so that I can see and get as many punches out as possible. And I will cut this so I can get at least a couple more out. So I'm just going to do a couple more here. Oops, backwards. And then I can come back and do some more later. I'm just going to show you how I do this. I was hoping to get one more with some green in it, but I do have quite a few here, so I think that'll be fine. So I've got them now sort of sorted. And yes, it does take this long to do it. I do spend this much time because I realized making other projects that even the little teeny items in your projects can look very flat. So there's a difference between this leaf that's yellow and this leaf. And let me hold these up closer to see if you can see that this one looks like it has a lot more depth to it because it has color around the edge. So once they're colored, I kind of put them aside, but I've got them in these reds. There's even some browns in here. I definitely want some greens and then some lighter yellows and oranges, and I probably need some more yellow for this, but I want to show you and then I can move on and finish myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Distress ink. I'm going to take the little mini blending tool. I've got here some spiced marmalade. I've got fired brick, which usually works very well on these projects. And then you can even use like purple Dusty Concord or seedless grapes. And then aged mahogany will usually work really well on the darker ones. So if you wanted to actually darken the edges of a dark red one, that will usually work. And then I also have some candied apple, which I've never used on these, so I was a little unsure if I wanted to try it, but I'm going to have it out just in case. So I'm just going to start with the lighter ones, the yellow, and I'm going to ink this with spiced marmalade, so it's just like one shade darker, and I'm just going to go around the edges and give it a little bit of a, because that's kind of what happens with leaves in the fall, right? They kind of brown from the outside in. Alright, so then on the orange ones, which are almost the color of spiced marmalade, I will use the fire brick on this one because I need something that's a little bit darker and that will show up. And that shows up really nice. I like that a lot. Okay, and you can go kind of as far in as you want, but you can see that that little leaf has some almost 3D texture to it. So I have to go through and color all these leaves. And then on the green, I think the fired brick would even work well on the green, because a green leaf with a little bit of sort of a red that has some brown tones in it looks really cool. So I'm going to go take care of that, and those are going to go on my project. Thank you for watching. That's how I make the tree and the leaves. So thank you for watching, and we will see you on YouTube.